Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in and welcome to the channel. This is the printmymini.com official channel, otherwise known as iPrint3D. And the channel is going to focus mostly on tips, tricks, tutorials, things like that. And in this particular video, not only is this a welcome to the channel video, but this is also going to be a brush priming tutorial. And this is kind of my own take on brush priming. I prefer to do brush priming rather than airbrush because I kind of get more into the model that way. It allows me to get intimate with what I'm painting, get a really close feel as to what I'm working on, and I get a really good sense of it. In this particular prime, I'm using just Volodymyr plain old black primer, not thinning that at all. I'm just applying that with a big old giant monster brush there. And that is actually an army painter monster brush, literally. And it's kind of difficult to see because sometimes my big fat stupid hands get in the way. I do apologize. And as we work our way around the model, just liberally applying the black primer to all of the surfaces. Trying not to hit any surfaces, again, that I have already touched on, as to not create any weird textures. It's kind of important to note that most artists do prefer to spray on primers. I actually don't. I live in a very humid area, and spraying anything is a bad idea here. So I have learned to brush on my primers, and I work a lot with pretty much a lot of brush techniques, whether it's this or dry brushing. As we continue to work our way around the model, you're just going to want to cover in as many of the cracks as possible, making sure to, like I said before, just try not to brush over too many of the same areas. It does appear sometimes that I am going over the same spot twice, and you might notice I'm touching it with the tip or trying to get a spot perhaps I missed the first time around. Usually what I'll do is I'll rotate the model a few times around so I start painting a different area completely, giving that one spot some time to breathe and dry, and then kind of coming back to it later. You are more than likely going to have to apply more than one coat of primer, so don't feel bad if you see some of the gray poking back through or whatever color your plastic happens to be. And this particular model is a 3D print that I just downloaded and printed off of mymini.com. They do have quite a large selection of different artists and creators there that are constantly pumping out awesome new creations. And that is something that I often take advantage of, and this guy was one of those models. I'll put the credit to the artist and creator and a link to their My Mini Factory page in the description in the video. As of right now, I don't actually recall specifically which artist this was. I download a lot of stuff on there, and obviously being that we have a merchant license, you know, we go through a lot of models with these guys. Now, as I continue to work the way around, I'm trying to cover those seams a little bit in there because I used green stuff, as you can see on the inseams, to make sure that the neck and other parts of the bust joined up right. He didn't actually have any arms, so I just covered the ends of the arms. There were some drain holes there that we made for hollowing. He actually has a giant hole in his bottom as well. We try to make use of hollowing as much as possible. Keeps the resin usage low. And like I said, I keep turning the model to consistently work on different areas. Trying not to deposit too much pigment in one particular spot with the primer. You don't want to soak the model in primer. You don't want to lose detail. You don't want to wash it out. You want to maintain that level of detail. I think that's very important. And you're also really setting the stage for additional levels of primer if you're going to work in a zenithal prime or some other priming technique on top, advanced shading techniques or layering. Then you know you want to make sure you start with a good layer foundation. I think one of the other things that is important to note too, as you'll notice in my technique, is I use kind of a stippling and I almost fan out the bristles of the brush a little bit. And this is really only to get the paint into the cracks and crevices. I don't advise doing this to brushes you like very much. you're gonna ruin them really quickly. This is a very fast way to bend the bristles and ruin the point on your brush, which you definitely don't want to do. Okay, as we wrap up, I'm going to try and get all the bits of the model I may have missed. And again, we are going to go over this with another coat of primer. Once this dries, you're going to want to revisit this again with another coat, probably touch up some of the spots that are still gray. You're going to want to maybe hit any shadow areas that you just did not get the first time. This will happen. I do it all the time. It's just something that you learn to recognize when you go back and you're like, oh, I missed this spot. There are even been occasions where I've seen some work that, you know, will even spray with a rattle can or something like that, and it'll miss some spots, and then I'll go back in with a brush before I start actually physically doing my dry brushing and finishing layers. And then we just wrap up the rest of the base primer coat, and that's pretty much it. Listen, I want to thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Again, welcome to the channel. We're going to try and publish content like this as much as possible. We're going to give tips, tricks, painting stuff. I have some color technique painting videos coming up, and some 3D printing tips, supporting tips, things like that. And a lot of different content planned. So stay tuned, subscribe, comment, hit that like button, and thanks for watching.